Okay, and trying to develop a collective understanding of chapter one. Uh, a lot of our understanding of things, people, cultures, groups that we don't interact with, we learn from media, books, TV, um, videos, posters, newspapers, movies, television shows. And we have to ask ourselves, how does that shape our perception or misconception of Native Americans? Because that's what, Unit One is over Native Americans. Um, you have, just like with the Black community, you'll have an overshowing of um, diabetes, health issues. You'll have an overshowing of crime. You'll have an overshowing of um, alcoholism. You will have even an overshowing of regaled life as opposed to the day to day life of what the Native American has. So when they show a Native American, they're showing a Native American in traditional Native garb as opposed to how they function day to day, not in a ceremonial dress, but who are they as a people? So we kind of keep them at that distance of this mental picture that America has made under white supremacy or a colonial view of the Native American being an underdeveloped savage with a culture and environment that really has no definition or substance. Um, and if that's all I know, that's what I'm programmed to understand. So it's important to have an understanding of the complexities and the extensiveness of these communities because several things happen. You one begin to see how effective these people are. Our highway systems are Native American trails. Chicago, Milwaukee, Indiana, um, all over the country. The names of places that we just, Delaware, the things that we think are American names, identifications, locations, that's Native American stuff. Um, Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, took from the war with Germany the need to get items back and forth across the country. So he was the father of the highway system. Those highway systems are Native American trails. Lewis and Clark, famous for discovery and all of this stuff, they were taken by guides and shown what was what. So American discovery is rooted in the Native American. And when we get used to something being absent, we in turn make it less valuable. So when you understand the complexities, the technology, the organization, you find out that this is an equal group to be exchanged with and to be respected and expect good things and more important, to be included. It removes the anxieties coming into contact with this group when I have the information that allows us to have an exchange. When I don't have that information and all I have is you're this mysterious group that is not really a part of our culture, but you belonged here a long time ago. That that distance, that space of lack of understanding or lack of information that they are written out of most of American function. You don't see Native Americans in the movies, in the sports, in politics, um, in business, in they're not represented in our day-to-day functions. Why is it we have not had a Native American president? So these are the anxieties that come up. And when you are a participant or a beneficiary of the colonial system that oppressed and continues to oppress them, that's where another source of anxiety comes from. Because you're meeting them and because you have no information as to how you're complicit in their oppression, you're not understanding the vibe you're getting from them, even if their vibe is not aggressive, but very distant, very slow to bring you in, very untrustworthy. You're like, well, why are you not trusting of me? Why are you unfriendly toward me? And then you take it personal. Again, that I didn't do it. If you are benefiting as an immigrant, as a naturalized citizen, as a natural born citizen, if you benefit in this country, you are benefiting from the harms of this country as well. And you are maintaining the system that maintains the oppressive systems. So you do not have the right or ability to completely remove yourself. It is important to understand and recognize the imagery associated with the Native American is because when you see what people are teaching you, you'll also see why they're teaching it. And if somebody is doing it to someone else, it is only so long before it's your turn. So these are the things that we're trying to bring out in this chapter. Why the native is not just important to the native, but why is it important to us? Why is it the I'm trying to move to a different module, but why is the native important? Why are you important? And if you are important, when it's gay rights and we want people to have a degree of sensitivity for the group I belong to, or black rights, or women's rights, or special needs, or any protective group, we want people to stand with us. Well, where are we when the pipeline uh, land issues were going on? Where are we when treaties are broken with Native Americans? They are as American as anyone else. And are we for right or are we just for us? And us means I'm a woman, I'm for women. I'm gay, I'm for gay. I'm black, I'm for black, but not right. So if I'm for right, I want right for you. And I'm going to support you in your issue. And I'm not going to get in front of it. See, that's something historically that usually happens. That the group that is generally doing the harm is saying, yeah, I'm helping, but I'm going to be in charge. But, we're not going to go too far into that. That was the real, issue that we wanted to, you know, touch on as far as discussing this chapter. Where are we seeing Native Americans in literature and TV and in books and posters and movies, and why are they being depicted that way, and what are they being depicted as, and how is that beneficial to whom, and what does that mean for you? Now, there were some things that were unique about the Native American ancestry and descent. It was matrilineal. Generally, um, everything is patriarchal in European or imperial or settler colonial culture. Everything runs through the father's family. But with Native Americans, it ran through the mother's family. Um, the way that they handled land was different. They did not believe that you could own land. It really doesn't make sense. The land is here before I got here. It will be here after I die, but I own it. It's really a dumb concept. They did an active use. Okay, we are using this land, but the land belongs to the universe. But we have a use of it and we will defend it for the purposes of our use. But that was another difference that they had as to where the European was about owning something that God made. How can you buy land when land is more powerful than money? If you put money on the ground, it's going to blow away. The land is still there. The whole concept didn't make sense between the two organizations. And again, we had talked about this 130 years after contact with the European. 95% of the European of the native population was gone, and some of it has to do with the Columbian Exchange. Some of it has to do with diseases, not just coming from the European, but from the animals that they brought with them. But again, that was a strategy. That was biochemical warfare. It was not an accident. It was an atrocity. It was the first recorded genocide. It was purposefully done to rid this people in the interest to only to take their stuff. Remember, racism is the child of capitalism or greed, not the father. When Christopher Columbus came, he had no problem with the people that were indigenous to the land. He wanted their stuff. So the Europeans came up with a rationale as to why it was okay. Then they became savages. Then they became uncivilized. Then they became underdeveloped. Then they became beasts. Just like with slavery, they didn't have a problem with the Africans, but they wanted people to do the work. Then they became less than human. Then they became property. Then they became beasts. The first group that when Columbus got here, the Arawaks. That's who he came with. It was the dark native people. Again, a sign of the African presence already. Mansa Musa, 150 years before um, Columbus. That's why they were so dark. But these are Caribbean people. Remember, they say he discovered America. He never touched continental North America. He only made it to the Caribbean. And one of the crops that they introduced, the that was introduced to Europe through the Columbian exchange, grapes, like tomatoes, cocoa, potatoes were already in Europe. Grapes, something as simple as grapes, were not. So the Columbian exchange was literally, remember, it's the exchange. Okay. Now, one exchange was a whole lot worse than the other. To the natives, they brought a bunch of diseases, but it's not just about the people, it's about the continents. They exchanged from the Eastern Hemisphere to the Western Hemisphere, and then they took things like grapes from and people, unfortunately, to the Western Hemisphere. So they're saying when Columbus came, things, communication, ideas, because when they were seeing how the Native Americans were organized, don't think they didn't take those governmental ideas back to Europe. A lot of the African modes of organization, look at the Olmec heads. Africans had been in the Western Hemisphere for a very long time. So there was information that was brought before the Columbian Exchange, Mansa Musa, before that, but and the wealth was coming back. That's why the Moors were so wealthy. But that's not part of American history because we're talking about the Europeans. But that's what the point of this class is, that there is more to history than colonialism by imperial nations spreading white supremacy. There is more information beyond the primary narrative of American or European perspective.